This elephant animal cracker. Does it really taste like elephant? Oh, hey kids. Welcome to class today. Today we're talking about the New England colonies. A lot of things are going on in the New England colonies, and we're going to learn about each one and why it formed. So we're going to start with the first little section of the chapter. It's called Seeking Religious Freedom. So, let's move this camera down here. Pow! So, the settlers of Jamestown, we talked about in the last section, were basically a business venture. They were sent by the Virginia Company to make money. The settlers we are discussing today did not leave to make money. They left for religious freedom. It all started in 1534 with a guy named King Henry VIII. He was a man of what we shall call questionable morals. He wanted a divorce from his wife, and the Pope wouldn't let him get a divorce, so he broke away from the Roman Catholic Church. He said, you know what, I'm forming my own church, the Anglican Church. This caused a bit of problems in Britain. Many dissented or did not agree with that decision and chose to remain Roman Catholic. A lot of people joined the Anglican Church. Some people wanted to reform this Anglican Church, and they were called the Puritans. They thought it should be better and stricter. And then there was another group of people who just wanted to break away and make their own church, and they were called Separatists because they wanted to separate. The Separatists, and really the Puritans too, but we're going to talk about Separatists. They weren't treated very well in England. They were persecuted. I didn't put that in this lesson page, but it's a vocabulary word. So they were really treated poorly, and as a result, in 1620, a group of them decided to move to America. They are what we called the Pilgrims. So you think of the Pilgrims, they were the Separatists. So these Pilgrims got a land grant from the Virginia Company. They would be allowed to move to Virginia and practice their religion freedom. The religion freely. They could do what they wanted. The problem is they got off course and ended up landing far to the north at Plymouth Rock. You may have heard of their ship, the Mayflower. Landing up north in December wasn't really great. Imagine getting off the boat with nothing in December in the Northeast. It's not really a good situation. That's like getting dropped off in your car with your camping equipment in the wilderness of New England in December. It's just not a good situation. Before departing the ship, in order to facilitate their survival, they knew it would be tough. The Pilgrims created their own government with what's called the Mayflower Compact. The Mayflower Compact is considered a key step in the formation of democratic government in the United States. So that's good. What's not mentioned in your history book, and very little mentioned at all, is that that first form of government was actually communal. That means that everybody owed everything. Like, it wasn't my house, it was the house of, the Plymouth colony, and I was just being allowed to live here for now. Same with the food and everything. Everything belonged to everybody. And this actually contributed to the harsh conditions and starvation of the Plymouth colony. People don't talk about that part. They just say, oh, it was a hard winter, and they survived because Samoset and Squanto helped them out and showed them how to farm in the rocky soil and build huts and stuff like that. And that's all true. In fact, that's right down here. We talk about Samoset and Squanto helping the Pilgrims survive the first winter. I want to make sure we didn't miss anything. Oh, they also helped broker the peace with the local Indian tribe called the Wampanoags. And yeah, we're going to talk about that at around Thanksgiving, because that's really, those Pilgrims are the Wampanoag are the first Thanksgiving. This leads us into the new colonies. See, in 1629, a group of Puritans, which is different from the Separatists, but a group of Puritans got permission from the King of England to set up another colony north of Plymouth in, typo, I'm going to say 1630. John Winthrop led a group of some 900 Puritans to settle in what would become Boston. As more Puritans moved to this new Massachusetts Bay Colony, they demanded more say in government, and the colony became more democratic. See, initially it was just this John Winthrop guy who founded the colony, founded the settlement, just making all the rules, and people didn't like that. So it became more democratic. A bit of an ironic thing about the Massachusetts Bay Colony that became Boston is that they left because Britain wasn't very tolerant of them, and then they formed their own colony, and then they're not tolerant of anyone else. Sort of a case of the pot called the kettle black. So as a result, the Massachusetts Bay Colony of Puritans is pretty strict as well, and then people want to break off and form new colonies with their ideas. Here we have a nice map of New England. Okay, that brings us to the colony of Connecticut. In the 1630s, a group of Puritans began settling in what is now Connecticut. They were led by a man named Thomas Hooker. He was a reverend. Hooker did not like the way Winthrop was running Boston, so he and his followers packed up and formed their own town called Hartford, Connecticut. In 3 years, they had formed the colony of, Connecticut. In 1639, they adopted the Fundamental Orders of Connecticut, the first constitution in the colonies. It's a little good golden nugget for you to remember. Alright, so there was a fellow in Boston named Roger Williams. He did not like the intolerant ways of his fellow Puritans in the city of Boston. He also did not like the systematic, basically taking of land from the Native Americans. So these ideas that he had about religious tolerance and not taking advantage of the natives pretty much got him kicked out of the Massachusetts colony. So he fled to what is now Rhode Island. He lived with the natives, and the natives sold him some land, which he used to farm the town of Providence, and his settlement became a safe haven for dissenters because he allowed religious toleration. So like other people, of other religions that weren't allowed anywhere else, would go there, like the Jews. In 1638, another group of dissenters, led by a guy named John Wheelwright, formed the town of Exeter in New Hampshire, which also became an independent colony in 1679. So you have all these people forming their own new colonies because they don't like what's going on in the original colonies. This leads us quickly to a little subsection called Conflict with Native Americans. Basically, as the settlers expanded and grew in the colonies, they took over Native American lands. Usually for no payment, they just sort of took it, moved in and took it. While many Indians traded with the settlers, conflicts still arose because they were taking their land. In 1675, one tribal leader of the Wampanoag waged war on the colonists. This was called King Philip's War. King Philip is what the settlers called Metacome, who was the chief of the Wampanoag. The war was pretty brutal, a lot more brutal, and there's a lot more details than we go into in this course. But the short of it is it lasted 14 months, and the colonists won. When we talk about this again at Thanksgiving, it's kind of sad, but we'll talk about how the Indians and colonists that fought in King Philip's War against each other, killing each other, were actually the descendants of the same Indians and settlers that dined together at the first Thanksgiving. So it's a pretty sad turn of events. The colonists won, they defeated Metacome, and this basically allowed for the continued expansion of the colonies into Native American lands. Here's a little picture of King Philip's War down here. See, they look like pilgrims fighting a pretty stereotypical Native Americans. Alright, we're going to go to the next page. It's a quiz. Multiple choice. I think I put one true or false in there. It's worth 10 points. And I will be sure to give multiple attempts. So that's your lesson for the day. Good luck and let me know if you need anything.